My advice for Beorning is something every Beorning should be doing. You should be using the potions that are available for you. The max tier where you can get these are the Anorian tier. You can craft either the Grizzly Potion of Rage or Grizzly Potion of Rejuvenation. This one gives 40% dev magnitude and instant 50 Wrath. So basically this is for DPS, and this one gives an instant 30 and then 30 over 30 seconds. So a total of 60 Wrath from this one. So obviously this one is for healing. If you're a healing Beorning, you should definitely stock up on some Anorian Grizzly Potion of Rejuvenation. So if you're ever in need of a small burst of Wrath, simply just pop this potion. It has a 3-minute cooldown, but it's a nice little way to build some Wrath. For Brawler, we all know that Brawler is a really sturdy tank and can take a lot of damage. But what we also know, with the new rework they recently did, Brawler is really good for offensive support. So I'm just going to show the main ways that you support your fellowship or your raid. First off, I just wanted to mention the One for All buff. It has a 57-second cooldown, and if used properly will give 10% mitigations to your full fellowship. And this can be a really strong buff. You can have it 50% uptime if you keep using it. Probably one of the strongest cooldowns a Brawler has, so make sure you try to use this properly. Follow Me got changed into a run speed, so you have a minute cooldown on a 15-second duration, 20% run speed for your whole raid, I believe, because most of the Brawler buffs were now raid-wide. I don't think One for All got raid-wide, it's still fellowship-wide. And here on the left, we have the main DPS skills that a Brawler can bring to a raid. Gut Punch is your main, kind of like a mini Oathbreakers, plus 20% target incoming damage for 20 seconds is really strong. It has a 15-second cooldown, so you can keep applying it to multiple targets over time. Obviously, the target you use it for will be immune to it for 70 seconds after it wears off, but after that you can apply it again. But Gut Punch is probably your strongest offensive support skill. Make sure to try to use it well, time it with other cooldowns in the raid, such as Oathbreakers. And then you have the Best Defense and Strike as One, which are basically the same effect. The only difference is the cooldown, 2 minutes on the Best Defense, 1 minute on Strike as One. The Best Defense will give a 30% damage buff for 20 seconds, while Strike as One will give a 20% damage buff for 30 seconds if you're close to allies. So potentially you can use Gut Punch while also using Best Defense and Strike as One, 50% more damage and 20% more damage on the target. So if you play a Brawler, try to play around with all of these skills, try to find the best ways to use them. And I would say don't be scared to use Strike as One and One for All, and also Follow Me. They're only 1 minute cooldown, and Strike as One and One for All have a 50% uptime because they last for 30 seconds. So don't be scared to spam these, so to speak. And Follow Me, I guess it's only 1 minute cooldown, why not pop a run speed? The Best Defense I would be a bit more wary of using. Make sure it's good timing, coordinate with other raid-wide buffs. And Gut Punch, same thing, you can spam it, but it's also good if you try to time it with other skills like Oathbreakers. Today's Burglar tips is about the different tricks you have at your arsenal, and basically I just want to make this quick. Enrage is a really good trick, 5% incoming damage. Disable, very good trick, minus 10% damage. Dust in the Eyes is good, situational. It's mainly used to apply on 7 targets. And then use your starting twist to remove corruptions and stun the targets. So this is situational, but not bad. And then Counter Defense reduces the crit hit chance on the enemies. This is trash, do not use this. Never ever click on this. Never do this. If you use Counter Defense, you should delete your Burglar. The Captain tip is about Last Stand, one of the strongest skills you have in Yellow Line as a Captain. This skill, 10-second duration, and you cannot be defeated. Basically immortal for 10 seconds, nothing can kill you. And when the duration ends, you heal 45% of max morale. It has a 5-minute cooldown, but there's a trait that helps reducing this cooldown. So when you take hits, last stand will be back faster. But basically this skill should be used when you feel like you're gonna die. If you're really low on morale, pop last stand. For 10 seconds you can't die. Try to recover from whatever is happening in the raid. It can also be paired well with In Harm's Way. If you want to take some of your fellowship's damage upon yourself, you also take less damage yourself. So In Harm's Way and then Last Stand can be a good pairing. But keep in mind, In Harm's Way is a 20-second duration, while Last Stand is only 10 seconds. So this can be risky if your fellowship is taking a lot of damage. But practicing the usage of Last Stand is a big part of tanking Cappy. The champion tips is a real simple one. There's a potion called Fervor Pot. This gives 45% more Devastate Magnitude, lasts for 30 seconds, has a cooldown of 3 minutes, also adds a bit of fervor. So you can kind of think of this as a little cooldown you can pop. It's basically free damage, so why not use this? If you're a champion player, make sure you have Fervor Pots. The Guardian tip is about the skill in blue line called Smashing Stab. You can trade it for 1 point, gives you the skill Smashing Stab, and this skill, Smashing Stab, kind of interacts depending on which skills you use during a fight. So there's 3 things you can do. They all deal damage, but basically Shield Swipe is the one skill that interacts with this. The other one is Retaliation. Shield Swipe requires a block response. Retaliation requires a parry response, so you have to kind of do some work before you can use these. Shield Swipe is the easiest one to use. You can just use Shield Blow to unlock Shield Swipe skill and then you use it, while Retaliation requires a parry response. A good way to get this is spamming Sting with Relentless Assault traded, or you can just actually get a parry in a fight. Using Guardian's Pledge is also a way to help get a parry response. But basically the way this works, if you enter a fight and you use Shield Swipe and then use Smashing Stab, you will stun your target. If you enter a fight and use Retaliation and then Smashing Stab, you put a bleed on your target. But these are not the main ways this skill is being used. If you use both, then you can open a Fellowship Maneuver. This is the main way to use Smashing Stab. During a fight, if you use Shield Swipe and use Retaliation, that means that you have a Fellowship Maneuver saved on Smashing Stab. And this will last all the way until you use the skill or you get out of combat. So as long as you stay in combat after using Shield Swipe and Retaliation, you can then use Smashing Stab to apply a Fellowship Maneuver. I'm just going to go into combat and show this in action. I use Shield Blow to unlock Shield Swipe. Now I have the stun stored. If I use Smashing Stab now, I would stun my target. But I just got a parry response. I used Retaliation. I've now used both of these. This means I have a Fellowship Maneuver. I can stay in combat for as long as I want. As long as I don't go out of combat or I don't use Smashing Stab, I will have a Fellowship Maneuver stored on the skill. So I'm going to go ahead and Smashing Stab on this target. It got hit by a Fellowship Maneuver. I'm not in the Fellowship, that's why we're not seeing the thing. But basically, this is how you use Smashing Stab, the Fellowship Maneuver. My Hunter tip for today is about Hunter survivability. As a Hunter, you have 2 ways of actually healing yourself. The first one is Blood Arrow. It restores 10% of your morale while you use it, and over 10 seconds, it restores 2% each 2 seconds. So that's a nice little heal if you ever take some damage. The other one is Press Onward. I would really recommend using the tracery that reduces the cooldown. Press Onwards is now 45-second cooldown, 22.5% max morale heal. So a really nice heal can also be used on the move like this, really quick. And if you want, you can even trade more into Press Onward to make it 10% higher. And the last thing I want to talk about, if you're doing a high tier raid, you probably should go into survival gear in yellow. You can gain 8% of both mitts, which is really, really important in high tier raids where you're going to take a lot of random damage. So survival gear in yellow, Press Onward, and Blood Arrow is really good for Hunter survivability. My Loremaster tip is a real simple one. There's a ton of things to do on Loremaster. There's so much to do, pet debuffs, everything, lores, blah blah blah. But if you want to be a really good Loremaster, you also will try to spam your heals at all times. Warlord and Beacon of Hope. Beacon of Hope has a 30-second cooldown and Warlord has a 10-second cooldown. And these heals can actually be really strong and helpful, especially for your tank. So a good practice is to never stop using your healing skills as a lore master, mainly on your tank, but in some cases it might be good to use on yourself. But my tip as a lore master, while doing all the other stuff, try to throw in the healing into your rotation. Don't forget to heal. As a blue minstrel, your main job is of course to be a healer. Don't forget that you can help out with other stuff as well. You have a skill that can fear an enemy for 15 seconds. Piercing Cry that can interrupt and also remove corruptions. And never forget, your Stir of Courage is fellowship wide. You can remove one effect from every fellowship member and it's a 10-second cooldown, so pretty short cooldown. So don't be scared to help out with removing effects, interrupting and fearing enemies if that's needed. As a Rune-Keeper, a tracery you definitely need to have is the Chill of Winter duration and critical vulnerability. The main reason is the last part. Flurry of Words, incoming crit chance, 2.2% stronger. This affects the skill Flurry of Words. And if you don't know what this skill does, plus 5.2% incoming crit chance for every type, melee, ranged, and tactical. 25-second cooldown, 26-second duration. So pretty much 100% uptime, so you should definitely be using this, especially if you're the only RK in the group. And the way this skill works, it's a small induction, and then an area around you will be covered. You can see right now, Flurry of Words, this is the area that gets covered. Every enemy inside this square will have a 5.2% higher incoming crit chance. So definitely try to use Flurry of Words if you're an RK player. For Warden, I'm just going to do a really basic and simple tip. You have a skill called Battle Preparation. Using this, you have a 15-second duration to build a gambit. You can do this out of combat. So before I go into combat, if I want to build ranged sounding challenge, for example, which is most Warden's opener, you can do this like I just did. Use battle prep. You have now 15 seconds to prepare for battle. And range resounding challenge is now saved. I can go into battle and use it right away without building it. So before going into a fight, if you're out of combat, use battle prep, build a gambit so you can get one up earlier than normal. If you like Lord of the Rings Online, there's one place you need to be. In every video that I post, you can go down to the description and join my Discord server. This will take you to the Ghynverse, a Discord server specifically made for Lord of the Rings Online. Here you will have monthly giveaways where people can enter and win LOTRO point codes. You'll also see whenever I post a new video, as well as stream. There are discussion channels for every class, for PvP, whatever you want from LOTRO. And there's also a best in slot section where you can find screenshots of everything you need in the game, every new gear that comes out, everything you need. Pretty much all the best items you can find here. And all the way at the bottom is my video archive. You can find all my old videos. But if you're a fan of Lord of the Rings Online, if you're a new player, if you're an experienced player, this is a good place to discuss and learn about the game.